Well, what I heard from was Councilman Watson, who said he wouldn't be here.
See if anyone's on the line.
Like somebody might have just pulled it out there.
Okay.
That coming along 2000, it took me 10 minutes to be able to get the turnout into the street.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Car
I'm not sure if
after
it's-
car after car.
I'm not sure if it's an election or if they got basketball that night or.
Yeah, I don't know. I figured it's probably election related, but who knows?
Yeah. I think junior jazz is going.
The what?
I think junior jazz has started.
Yeah, maybe it has. I'm not connected to that anymore because I don't have kids doing it.
I'm not either, I just. Yeah, and when your kids get old and move out, it's like. You lose touch with like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay, they come back.
Oh, mine already have, but they're gone again. My youngest is 16, so I still have an idea, a little bit of what's going on. It's
Yeah,
at the high school level, not, younger.
and my youngest now is 27, so
Yeah, my youngest, almost 25. Wow. You're just a young kid. I'm just young, yeah. My oldest just turned 24, or turned 24 earlier this year. My oldest turned 30, that's her number this year. Yeah,
you're what, Mom?
I have a 30-year-old kid.
I have a 50-year-old kid. 50 down to 27. 5 boys and 5 girls.
Whoa,
Yeah,
that's like 3 families.
I was one of 15 kids, so that's a small family compared to mine.
Well, I have some good news I just found out. I don't know if you knew, my daughter was in a horrific car accident about a month ago.
Didn't know that, no.
She's been in intensive care at McKay for 3+ weeks, in a coma for a good portion of that. They moved her out of intensive care on Sunday. And today she said her first words, her husband was sitting there in a chair looking at her, and she said, "Why are you staring at me?" He said, "Because you're so beautiful." And she said, "Stop it, you're creeping me out."
Well, she didn't lose her sense of humor.
No, apparently that's still there.
Well, that's good news.
That's really good news, being in a coma for that long, and you still didn't lose anything, that's.
Yep. I'm hoping she'll forget all those things I said to her when she was small.
Some lady just walked in. I don't know who it is.
I wonder if they didn't check their email or something like that.
Because we didn't send out a packet this time, right?
We just send out the.
It's the agenda. There was no packet.
Oh, okay.
I looked at
Oh, there's Scott.
looked at everything in the back, every page.
Scott just walked in.
Scott was walking, okay, good.
Yeah, Scott's coming in.
Okay, we have the meeting then.
Just have him give the opening benediction.
Yeah, well, it's. You've got the opening and, I can do the pledge, I guess.
That beer.
Big crash on West Davis corridor,
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
a big rollover.
Oh, is that right?
Well,
And it backed up a couple miles.
Multiple cars?
I saw the one.
Yeah.
Could have been more. It was down in the ditch. They had a big tow truck down there pulling it up.
how far was it, what city was Syracuse?
No, it was is probably just outside of Farmington.
Or right at the very beginning, West Davis.
At the end, it was 950 north, right there. Yeah, just after that.
Wow.
Good.
We're ready whenever you are, Mr. J.
Well, now that we have a quorum, we can go ahead and get started. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item on our agenda is the invocation thought by Commissioner Dennis Johnson, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll go ahead and take care of that for Commissioner King since he's not here. So Commissioner Johnson.
Oh, and then we pause and give thanks unto thee for the opportunity we have assembled this evening. Discuss issues with the city. We're thankful for the chance to and pray that we might be guided and directed to do what is right for the betterment of our city. We're grateful for the good news about Collins' family and pray that thou continue to bless them in their recovery. We thankful for all that we have and ask for thy blessing to be with us and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. All right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is to adopt our meeting agenda. It's been posted in accordance with state laws. We take a motion to adopt.
So moved. Move to adopt.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is public comment. So I'll go ahead and open public comment. And we'll close public comment. And then next item is to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting on October 15th. And they're included with our packet. If anyone has any comments or corrections, we can make those. If not, we'll take a motion to adopt the meeting minutes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, all in, or second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item is to adjourn to work session.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are now in work session. Councilman Watson said that he would not be here tonight, but he didn't give me anything that he wanted covered. So we'll go ahead and go past that one. City attorney, anything for us?
I have nothing.
Nothing. The good news on your daughter, though, that is good. So. And then upcoming agenda items, Royce, anything?
Excuse me. Yeah, we do have just as far as updates from last time. Let's see. So it's that Syracuse Arts Academy. We're calling it Syracuse Arts Academy subdivision, but it's mostly just the residential. That should be coming up soon. We're getting close. There's just some issues with what do you call them, with wetlands down there. We are working on some code enforcement updates with the noise ordinance and how we exact code enforcement, who does what. We're doing this self-initiated general plan amendment there on the corner of 2700 and 2000. The city council approved the northern property to be all commercial, and they tabled the southern property. So the property owner was there, same property owner actually that we spoke with in our meeting, and they decided to hold off on that. They're hoping to maybe shift the commercial more towards the 2000 west side instead of having it go along 2700. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see here. Associated with that subdivision, the Johnson subdivision, on that property, we're, I guess, still waiting to hear back from the applicant on that one, but that should be soon. It's a single family on that property that they're doing the general plan amendment. And then we have the Parkview at Shoreline subdivision, waiting for updated plans on that one. That's the final two phases there at the bottom, or yeah, final two phases at the bottom of that. It's over west of the regional park property on 2400 west. And then let's see, we have that plat amendment that I mentioned, moving that property line over. We should have that in the next meeting. We're looking at putting in a code for differing crosswalk materials. We talked about that at times where in the code requires for site plans and things where you have a crosswalk going across a drive aisle. A lot of times people will just put striping, and we require dissimilar materials, which is a little too vague. We want to add something specific so that we have the actual material. Going to update the buffer ordinance to add a buffer next to the West Davis corridor for projects there. The Arlo project here, about like Banbury and 1700 South, that apartment complex. They're going to add another building that was approved previously, but they need to go through the site plan process for that specific building. It's going to be a vertical mixed use. So they're going to have commercial on the bottom floor and residential on the upper floors. And then let's see, Briggs rezone. Yep, we're looking at an ag protection area and a couple of things potentially, but we're waiting for some applications to come in on those, I guess, before I get into details. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. It was good to know some of those. The last time we had one of these, we reviewed the general plan. Some of those things you talked about came out of that review.
Oh, yes,
Good
that's
to-
right.
Good to hear that those are in work now. So that's good. Next item is the code and general plan review. And the area we kind of wanted to look at was some of the larger areas in the city that are not built in yet, and kind of what the plan is for those, what things we need to look at. And we'll see where that takes us to. If there's more time, there's a couple of things we can talk about, but we'll see where we get with that. I don't intend to keep the meeting real long. I appreciate everybody's time tonight, but maybe, half an hour, 45 minutes or something like that, unless we get a good discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, this stuff is very important. We want to make sure that we're planning ahead and not just planning as we go. So I'm gonna see if I can pull up a boundary here real quick.
While you're pulling it up, have we heard anything on the Costco plans? My wife asked me like every other week.
The preliminary agreements, there are several, the financing agreements, they're coming along nicely. And I think we're hoping to receive a site plan application soon.
Okay, did they got the wetland issues taken care of then?
Supposedly, the wetland issue has been resolved, saying there is no wetlands. I haven't seen that myself, but that's what I've heard.
Good. So looking for a site plan sometime in the near future, then that's really good news. My wife will be happy. My wallet may not be as happy.
Right.
Just eager to spend it in Syracuse rather than in Bountiful.
Yeah. Or
A
Ogden.
lot of
Or Ogden.
nice. Yep.
That's true.
So let's see so open spaces that we have currently, there are a few, and you can kind of see like these parcel lines are sort of dense and it sort of shades things in a little bit. We have a couple of open spaces that we don't really want to be considering. For example, this area here, and then in there, these are in the city, but they are a buffer area and they're owned and maintained by the North Davis Sewer District.
Even the one that buffers right up against Antelope, they don't want anything to do with that one.
Yeah. Yeah. They're sick of dealing with the complaints from people. And so they're trying to keep the buffer as wide as they can. So even this property here, but everything north of that is privately owned. And then of course you got the golf course in here. Don't anticipate that changing anytime soon. And we have some parks.
How wide is it's all commercial, it's planned commercial, isn't it? Frontage on Antelope between the golf course and Antelope.
Yeah, so this area here it's pretty narrow. I think I want to say that's maybe 100 feet deep or so. Is that about 200.
Okay, that's not too bad then.
Yeah, there is a fair amount that can be done in here. This is our I believe neighborhood services zone, and then there's general commercial over here. So our professional, hold on, let me double check.
I thought neighborhood commercial was orange.
Yeah, we don't do much with the pink.
I think the general commercial, isn't that the auto?
That's Paul's Auto right
Paul's
there.
Auto
Yeah.
there?
Professional office.
Professional
Is what that
office.
is.
Okay.
Yep. So, I mean, that area is, and here, let's see, I'll pull this off in general planned to be medium density residential. So
Oh, interesting. We may want to look at that one.
yeah.
That doesn't make sense now.
Yeah, I think this was, if I recall correctly, this was at the behest of the owner of the property.
Oh,
They're just leaving things open, but there wasn't like a definite plan by any means.
Yeah, if you look at the general plan map, along most of those major arterials, you see that orange. And there's a statement in the general plan that says that density, when appropriate, should be located along major roads. And so I think those probably anticipated kind of like duplexes and infill kind of projects. Even though our PRD zone has a minimum acreage of three acres, would probably preclude a lot of the properties from even developing for a duplex or something. So
I was just thinking that would be a good spot for commercial.
yeah, I mean, in years past, we had commercial on every major arterial. It was commercial, commercial, commercial. And then you know, the rationale is that, and based off of some data that we had received from Research Zions, I remember there's various sources like Susie Becker like had done presentations saying what the common square feet of retail per capita is, and you know, we did the math and just saw that. And we were also seeing that a lot of the property owners were coming to city council and begging and saying, we've had this listed forever. So it is a discussion that's a good debate that kind of goes back and forth, because we want to maximize our commercial. We need the commercial as a population. It's a source of sales tax. But if you overdo it, you kind of trap those property owners on the arterials with nothing else to do with their property, unless we expect them to just wait. And maybe that is what we expect. But then there's also the place making argument about, you know, what do we want our major thoroughfares to look like? Do we want it? Because there's lots of case studies of cities that have said, yes, it's a major arterial, we're going to do commercial. Then you look at Roy, and everybody hates Roy because it's just commercial all the way up and down. And everybody's like, well, maybe that's not the best choice. So I guess that's a really long answer for, you know,
One I hear a lot
idea.
is Riverdale Road. Everybody hates it except those who live in Riverdale, because all of their commercial is along that one road.
Oh yeah, and as far as their sales tax revenue,
Yes, it's great.
we got the best fireworks ever.
Yeah.
Of course, this is a regional commercial center, right? So
Yeah.
when we're taking into consideration the types of potential planning, so obviously anything that comes in, right, it's going to be rooftops first, and then they're going to bring in their commercial, then they're going to bring in their professional office, whatever else, right? So, and they're all about their concentric circles, and sometimes there's, in my opinion, kind of oversimplified metrics that they use to determine what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But
No,
Usually, if another retailer is there, they want to be there.
I just wonder, with the Costco just being not very far away, if that would drive something there.
Yeah, I think Costco changes a lot with our general plan, because Costco is a regional draw.
Yeah.
And that will attract other regional business. And so I think our general plan is already anticipating a lot of square footage of commercial right there. But that'd be a good discussion, though, is do we expand or replace some of those medium density into commercial?
I think it would make sense. My own personal opinion, I think it makes sense because Costco's going to draw stuff with the freeway right there. That's going to draw stuff. Now people heading out to Antelope Island, instead of going past Walmart and everything else, they'll come off of West Davis and out that way. So
that stretch of orange right there specifically makes a lot of sense to be commercial.
Yep. That's the one I'm thinking about right there. I think that makes a lot of sense to be commercial.
I can make a note about that. I guess while we're considering the area, because we'll just kind of go through each one, but this is obviously significant undeveloped space down here. And then this isn't huge, but it is pretty good size. This city owns this, and also UDOT. It's going to be park and ride up here. I guess there is park and ride up here.
Park right there.
I thought UDOT owned that. It's not.
So we own bits and pieces, or we will, I guess. It's kind of they're working on it, but this will be city property down here eventually.
The parks and ride actually do get, I believe, dedicated to the city, and we get the joy of figuring out the management of all the people that camp there and all that.
Yeah, so we currently own that one, and that one. I think we own. UDOT owns this part still.
Yeah, the land just to the east of that, between Huckleberry Drive and Antelope. Who ended up buying that, or did that get bought further?
Still for sale.
Still for sale.
Yeah,
Or the
this
north
stuff is
side.
all being auctioned right now. We've got some private owners, like somebody bought this one. I don't know if they were going to do anything with it, but these were also recently auctioned. This stuff is currently on the block, but all of this stuff will kind of slowly go
Yeah.
down.
The big piece there is when I was talking about where you have your
This
arrow,
one?
right? No,
Yeah,
for
so
the-
this
for
is
the
currently
east.
owned by these folks.
For
The corner
east.
piece.
The
Oh, the corner
the
piece,
corner
sorry.
area of
Between
Huckleberry
Huckle
Drive,
and
Antelope, and 2500.
Yeah.
Aha.
That area is what
There
I
we
was,
go.
because that would be a good commercial spot.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the challenge with this one, and again, this is kind of stuff we want to discuss, I suppose, is access. They're not going to be able to access from Antelope. So these guys are going to have to either access from Huckleberry or 2500 and probably primarily Huckleberry,
Huckleberry would be
which is
probably
going to
more.
decrease commercial viability, I would imagine, significantly. More left turns, the more turns people have to make, the less valuable the property tends
I
to
guess
get.
you probably could get an access on the across from, because there is an entryway kind of
On 2500 West.
off
Yeah.
of 2500 there. You could square it up, have an entry right there.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, it's really up to our engineer in terms of what makes sense there. But per our code, that like they could have a driveway
Yeah.
at that location. I mean, this is, yeah, and I agree. I think, let me pull up the general plan map again. I don't want to get, I guess, too distracted, but I think that already
It is
is,
commercial.
yeah, we probably could clean that up right there.
Yeah.
But I agree. That makes sense to have that commercial.
With the auction parcels, we've been getting a lot of phone calls, and usually it's like, can I build apartments? No. Can I build storage units? No. Okay, I'm out.
That's everybody wants those. So.
Yeah, there is there is one product that I think we do want to consider. And I think it makes sense, especially with a lot of the shifting people working from home, or we have these businesses that are moving into commercial type spaces. Is this flex office product? I don't know if you all are familiar with that. But essentially, it's just a bunch of garages, and then they have sort of like a small front. And so sometimes that could be retail, but most of the time it's, you know, plumbers, electricians, you know, trade work. And they'll move into those types of spaces, but that is, at least in our code, an industrial type use. So I actually think every single UDOT parcel that's come up for auction, they've wanted to do
Something like
some sort of work use like that.
that might be something we could look at with neighborhood services, because that seems like that might fit into that category.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it'd be good to discuss that because that is a shift. Even since the pandemic, that's a shift that I've seen in the market.
That or business park.
Either one of those.
So,
I
okay.
think you can do it in business park already.
Oh, can you? Okay. That when we already have one that can do it, then we may not need to amend it.
I have, at least so far, I don't want to make it too haphazard, but changing the stuff to commercial and then cleaning that up.
Bring that up to commercial.
So down here, because in terms of the open spaces, this area is going to be the largest contiguous open space that we have. So if again, hypothetical Costco, you know, who knows? If that does go in at the northern end, we're going to have a lot of property here. I don't anticipate, I mean, this is huge, 110 acres just up to this line. So, you know, 115, 20. So we're looking at a massive amount of property. Not all of that is going to go commercial. That's not possible. So if we're looking at, say, like a mix of, say, commercial office residential or commercial office, I'd probably not industrial, but are there any thoughts on that?
Well, there's high density residential in the general plan right there.
Yes, they do have a breakdown. I've got commercial at the north end, medium,
This is an old
and then
general plan layer.
low density. Oh, it is, huh? That updated.
If you have access to the planning drive, there's an updated one.
The
Under-
orange is now high density.
Yeah, where the orange is. City council approved that.
That would mean just PRD though, right?
That's one of the options in high density.
PRD. Planned residential development.
Oh, look at that.
So, but that would qualify for a mixed use probably as well.
Not unless 3000 West is a UDOT street, which last I checked it wasn't.
Yeah.
Nope.
That's true. That is not a state highway.
It's in the general plan, how they would actually zone it and if and when, it's a whole nother story.
That might be a discussion to have also on our part to, if we're going to look at this area, because given how the mixed use zone has changed to required to be on a UDOT road, that doesn't fit anymore. So we may want to look making a change to that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the community has a lot of opinions about density and a lot of people are frustrated, and ultimately our plan should reflect what the community wants.
Yep.
But we also want to have balance based off of, the housing needs of our population too.
I think a medium density would work there. Or a PRD, or PRD is considered part of medium density.
Yeah, if you look at the actual document of the map that's on the website and go to the legend, there's a list of all the zones that could fit in there, and within the medium density, I believe PRD R3. What else goes in there? Oh, and you can do all the lower density
All of those.
stuff and neighborhood services.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to be, my opinion, I think it makes sense to do that as, although high density can also be general commercial, looks like too, huh?
Yeah, it's really open-ended. Professional office, general commercial, PRD, any of the lower densities.
So high density allows everything except for ag
Industrial.
And industrial, yeah.
and industrial. Okay.
Well, I guess and business park.
And business
but
park. Yeah. So
we don't, do we have any business park in the city? We don't.
We made the zone.
Yeah.
Never been used.
never-
Same with research park.
Mhm.
We have a few zones that have never been used. See that SU? That's a storage unit zone.
Climate controlled indoor storage. Which didn't we have somebody apply for that though downtown? That's why
Yeah, we tailored it for somebody that wanted to do it behind that behind the karate place.
yeah, there's a story behind the business park and also the research park zones.
Yeah, I remember the research park zone used to be out by the sewer.
That the intention was that at one point the sewer district talked about partnering with a university and having them come out there and do some kind of, they could do studies, they could have, I think it was Utah State, and they could do some kind of studies, they could do things like that, and then it never happened. And so we created the zone so that then they would be able to have that option to do that kind of a research park out there, and they did never do anything with it. But that's why that's the reason that business park, or the reason research park is on the books.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing to think about too is we're planning other people's land. It's sometimes people have opinions about that.
Yeah. Well, this was actually the sewer district that actually came and asked for it.
Really?
And then they said, we were considering doing something like this. And then so we said, okay, we don't really have anything for it. So we created this zone for that and put it out there by the sewer plant. And then they did never, I'm not sure it fell through, they changed their mind or whatever happened, but it didn't get used.
I've heard the sewer district just wants people that won't complain. So uses that people that won't complain about smells.
Yeah.
Because I've seen there was like this athletic park that wanted to lease a bunch of land, and it was like a private sports park kind of thing. They would have built like baseball and stuff. And they went the rounds with them, and then they never ended up materializing. So I wonder, obviously Black Island Farms is out there and they're running a kind of a temporary business.
Yeah.
I've been out there and it's been pretty smelly before.
I've been out there a couple times. I haven't noticed anything, but depends on probably the way the wind's blowing or stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's why you see the green on there. We anticipate that just whatever it is kind of low intensity.
Yeah.
Or even maybe there's opportunity for the city to get another city park and do, but I don't know if they would sell the land to the city or if it'd have to be like a 99-year lease. But the city does need, and that's a whole nother document, but it is a section within the general plan. The city does need parks for its growing population, and there's probably a couple more parks the city needs to buy land for.
Yeah.
And that land is disappearing fast.
So along the lines of like Noah mentions, the property owners, obviously that's going to be a big thing to take into consideration. The request there to change that was part of that dynamic, I guess. So, I mean, changing it back to, it would be a change back, right? If we went back to medium density in this case. So I've got that on the notes list. As far as the southern portion here, it's about half the property. It's just low
Can you
density.
clarify, so the city council did put that as high density recently?
They did. So here's the current general plan. So you can see the high densities here. This was what, was that this year? It's a few months ago.
Yeah, it was kind of a holistic discussion about the whole property. So the intensity of use would taper out the further away from the intersection you get. So that's, I'm sure you guys will have an opinion about that. And it's within your ballpark to have an opinion about that since it's in the general plan.
Yeah, that would have been December of last year. They made that decision. So yeah, so if again, the southern portion is still the same. If I can go back and forth a little bit and kind of see that
And
Utah shape.
yeah, I think since that change was made, then that the mixed use zone has been changed so that it won't fit there anymore.
Mhm.
This isn't mixed use.
No, I'm just saying if they wanted mixed use, that's something that can go in the high density.
True.
Yeah, there's precursors written into the zoning language. Yeah, I mean, we can attempt to, I guess what I'm trying to say is if there's a will, there's a way. And if there's a project that's attractive to the city and it doesn't meet the current zoning ordinance, the city could change their ordinances to allow it in. They could take the requirement to be on a state highway off, or they could do a development agreement, or they could take away the minimum acreage, you
That's
know,
true. They could-
because it is
yeah.
within the powers of the city council.
It is. So maybe we just leave it how it is for right now. I mean, but maybe it's just a notice, something we can look at and make sure as we're looking at the general plan, does that make sense?
Okay.
And I like the flexibility though, because the general commercial could be there. So if, you know, Costco, other businesses come in, they can kind of, they can go into that area if it continues to grow.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of maybe I think like use feathering, at least this type of thing allows for if they wanted to put, say, some townhomes or smaller lot, single family against these residential homes here. So you don't have as much like commercial intensity right up against these large lot, single family. But I mean, it really is like Noah said, up to what happens in the moment a little bit. And definitely where there's a will, where there's a way. If we get some really attractive business that comes in and they say, well, we're not going to come in unless you guys let us build 500 apartments, then you never know.
Yeah.
So, but with that said, how do we feel about the southern half here being low density residential?
I think that makes sense because it matches everything around it,
Okay.
you know, except for the little bit on the north, but it matches, you know, east, west, and south is all the same.
3000 West is a nice, good access, and you've got up to the freeway access or 2700 South. I mean, you've got nice, a lot of capacity for roadway.
Yeah, as the city grows, our 3,000 and both 2,700 will need to.
The 3,000
Needs
that
some
area is pretty
improvement.
narrow.
Yeah, they're both just two lane type deals, but yeah, they're slated to be bigger roads someday.
Yeah, I've driven that area with, you know, and those are some 3,000 west gets kind of narrow down in that area, down towards the intersection of 2,700 there. It's
Yeah, there's supposed to be a roundabout right there too.
I know that Councilman Carver's farm is that little rectangle just to the east of that. I
Yeah.
have an opinion.
So let's see if we move east, a lot of this stuff is pretty occupied, I guess. Maybe I don't want to worry too much about that. Let's go.
Schools might go away. You never know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, that is a
Yeah.
lot of acreage down there. So we've got, granted though, in terms of realistic, so even though the freeway's right here, you start getting into where you've got some pretty decent distance for access. I don't anticipate this stuff would be commercial unless everything's totally filled in and it's, you know, there's a lot of pressure. But I could see this stuff going residential. We have the Sadie's Glen, senior living kind of townhouse and small lot, single family stuff in here. And then we've got Agate Estates that was just approved here, which is basically just the same thing as what's up here. So really the only ones are this, we got this one's undeveloped. We got a couple of these that are undeveloped. I mean, this one's undeveloped, but you know, I guess, are there any strong feelings about this general area? It's currently all low density residential, or sorry,
Or ag.
it's zoning.
Yeah.
Go again here. There we go.
I think that makes sense. Right now.
Okay. All right. Moving along. We have this area, which, well, that's being kind of contested and planned, unless does anybody have strong thoughts about this
That's
area?
the one we talked about a couple times with the
Yeah.
commercial and the residential, isn't it?
I thought you said the
Yep.
city council made that commercial.
Yeah, we've done commercial up here now, right? That was
Yeah.
what you were talking about. Top half commercial, bottom half residential, but tabled.
Yeah, the city council is still talking about this and trying to figure out what it is, but the south half still needs to come back to city council for more discussion.
And what's south of there is it's all just R1.
Yeah, this is all medium density residential down here. We figured, and as I recall from the discussion in 2019, this was all because of the freeway. And we have little spots up here. I don't know what you do with this property. And there's like the BMX course and the pump track, and then we got the Syracuse Arts coming in, and then it's kind of this is all filling in pretty quick. Let's see.
There was a pre-application consultation meeting on the property that UDA auctioned off. If you guys saw that, that's to the east of the interchange right there. Yeah. They're proposing small lot, single family. And city council kind of told them to take a hike. So I don't know what will happen. They might come back and propose it, see how the vote lands, but yeah, I think in general everybody's feeling the growth, and there's a lot of, I guess.
What the council wanted, they didn't want single family.
Well, that was the thing. I think they kind of did think single family is probably the right fit. It's just we have so much growth going on. I know a couple of them have expressed just kind of a desire to slow things down.
Oh,
And I don't know how you do that exactly, but
well, especially where the state government's saying build more homes.
yeah, there's that too.
State government's gonna get rid of us.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, so I don't know what will happen with that, but I think the general plan is medium density, isn't it? Probably
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was.
Yep.
the whole thing.
I think that makes sense, the general plan.
I mean, yeah, because the challenge with this area, I had a couple developers calling when this was up for auction because it's right next to the on ramp, but you got to go through this neighborhood to get to it. And so if you're coming from this direction, you have to go down through the neighborhood and over. The access is just really weird, even though it's so big and it's right next to the highway and right next to the on ramp. So there's like everybody that I talked to when I pointed that out, like, oh, there's no commercial viability, which I think makes sense. You don't want people driving through little neighborhood to get to
Yeah.
a commercial space. So
Yeah. How many houses were on that plot?
I don't think the density was more than 4 units per acre, 4 or 5.
And what do we know the size of that?
I want to say there's probably a couple hundred homes on there. Yeah, they're proposing a sound wall and some trails and a little open space. But I think the lots were 6,000 square feet.
comes out to be about 30 acres. So yeah,
So 120 houses?
120-ish. Yep.
That's not that many.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes down to it, it comes to a question of timing and the other projects that we have and our ability to absorb the growth. And so I know that everybody's been feeling that pressure lately, especially with the tax increase and stuff.
That would decrease. It's more people contributing.
Yeah, people new homes do provide more property taxes, and you have more services to provide for those people, and so it just kind of keeps going up. I know a lot of times people aren't aware of all the master plans that we have for growth and the transportation, the sewer, the stormwater, so we are planning for the growth, and we have planned for the growth, and we've been collecting impact fees to complete some of these projects and stuff. So it's not like we're not prepared for the growth. It's just sometimes when you have to make big capital improvements, you do it in a big chunk. And then I don't know. I don't want to get into the politics of it, but
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so any thoughts on this area outside of what we discussed already?
Well, unless the rest.
Sounds, looks appropriate. I mean,
I think
Makes
what
sense.
medium density seems very appropriate for that area.
Okay. Great. All right. So we have a couple of these sort of infill areas. I feel like these are very similar.
hey, Royce, what about the south side of the interchange up there? I know that we've been getting a lot of interest there.
Yep. We have currently zoning wise, just for context. Whoa, that's really old. This is commercial.
Yeah, commercial, I think makes sense there personally.
mhm.
Yeah, the rest of it, we've got a park and ride here currently. I pull up a more updated map. The county just updated their map like last week or something. So here we go. So there's the parking lot. We got detention basin, so that's not going anywhere. And then this is commercial. And then the rest of this is a mixture of agriculture and R1. So this parcel is huge. And then you got kind of a smaller one there. This one's really substantial, and so is that. So some pretty big pieces in here. And this is all general planned, a mixture of commercial. Oh, no, it is just commercial. Straight
Commercial, I think that personally, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had quite a few people, nobody's pulled the trigger yet, but we've had quite a few people express significant commercial interest. This is the hot one for flex office for whatever reason. Seems like every other person I talk to wants to do flex office there.
Flex office there, that doesn't,
Seems odd to me.
yeah, right off the freeway. That
What do you
doesn't,
guys think about all that commercial general plan over the single family
that's kind of
neighborhood?
interesting, yeah.
That's they can all have home businesses, right? Bakeries.
They all have 2-car garages, so
What's the thought?
put those
behind
up.
that?
Well, I think because of the location
Oh,
off the on ramp, but then obviously there's a subdivision built.
yeah.
It's really long range planning.
Yeah, I know that the people that I've talked to have said that they would be willing to reserve pads along 2000, but the deeper into the property because of the access, they all want to build townhomes. But what that property doesn't have great access once you get, because it's so remote, deep, from the main road. It's visible from the freeway.
Yeah.
So there's probably somebody that wants a building with a sign on the side of that building that free advertising.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd do a Smith and Edwards. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So any thoughts on changing that from, because the commercial, I mean, it doesn't just support commercial, again, to go back to let's see, go back to our uses. So commercial supports general commercial, professional office, mixed use neighborhood services, and this climate controlled storage zone.
Yeah, they could put their storage units back there in the back corner.
Yeah.
What's climate controlled? So it's gonna be 3 stories tall. And that's the backside will be the billboard.
Yes, you
The
could,
only thing I
yeah.
could think of is if we were to take kind of where the road connection to the south, if we were to take something like that to the east of that, make it residential or something, but I would think that would be a good dividing line right there. But
Yeah. I mean, it's the tricky thing in this area. Well, actually, I'm just not sure in terms of viability for the sewer, because we have a sewer line that comes down like this, and then it goes into this road. So it goes underneath the highway. So if, depending on the elevation over here, there's probably going to be a point where they're either going to have to build this up, or it might just be open space anyway, in terms of the sewer gravity flow. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's very much in the weeds. So
How big is it?
this parcel,
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking parks,
oh, if we were to split it up, if I go east of this road and take in roughly to the edge of the corridor, that is 2.2 acres. So it's not huge.
not huge. Okay.
Yeah, any other thoughts here?
Is that for beehives?
What's that?
Is that for beehives? We can get some crops pollinated.
Yeah. Oh, that's what we need. We need like a bee zone. You can build a building that's just bees.
Yeah, bees next to a freeway. What could go wrong?
Yeah, maybe we'll just leave it as it is for right now. I don't know what else to put there.
Okay. All right, let's see. Make sure I don't miss anything in this area. We do have, again, I guess like I was saying earlier, so we got this here, it's a long piece and it's open. We have commercial down here at the intersection. But yeah, most of this is undeveloped in here. So this is 1,000. Pull this off so you can see what's actually out there. You got a couple of homes up here, buildings, and then it's just farm field, farm field, farm field. I have not, since I've been here in 2016, had any interest or heard anything about any type of desire to develop anything in here. So I don't anticipate that's.
Who owns them?
This is Clark family, Nathan George Clark, and then Yamane, not sure how you pronounce that.
Yamani, probably.
So
I just wonder if maybe they rent it out to farm or something. I don't know.
could be, yeah. I mean, it's always cultivated. There's always something out there.
I know our parks master plan says that area is in need of a park. I guess the further away you get from Jensen. The other thing, Royce, if you can turn on the zoning on the south side of Gentile, you have these kind of slivers that go down and they're zoned industrial. But the master plan has them all for open space. I believe if you click on the ownership, I think the Nature Conservancy owns them now. So it might be, oh, maybe UDOT still owns it. My understanding is that they'll be dedicating it all to the Nature Conservancy. But maybe the model airplane people, is that still UDOT or is that still privately owned?
I think that is out here, isn't it?
I think it's that green field right there. Yeah.
Right here. Oh yeah, yep.
Well, who owns that?
That's the
This is still
airplane
owned
folk.
privately. But we may want to look at just taking that. I don't think we want industrial out there.
Yeah.
The history of why that was industrial is that at one point years ago, we had to have so much land that was industrial. And the goal was to put the industrial out where it was the undesirable locations, because the city didn't really want that because of all the things that go into an industrial zone. And so we put it out there away from everything where it was unlikely to ever have anything happen to it.
We got the strip club with the mosquitoes.
Yep.
Down
Exactly.
there. I mean,
I'm
this
not
one-
aware of any, maybe that requirement's gone away. I'm not aware of a requirement to have a certain number of acres of
It may have been
industrial.
away. This would have been, and
Well, didn't they have a,
like 2005, 6.
they had a
or something like
requirement
that.
like where they would put the explicit businesses had to be an industrial.
Yep.
Then you had to have an industrial area.
Yep.
So then we said, well, fine.
That's
the
that,
First Amendment thing.
that was exactly the thinking. There was the strip clubs and so all the undesirable businesses had to go somewhere, and we didn't have a place for them, and so we put the industrial zone, and then that meant we had to have industrial somewhere, and so it went out there. They can go out, hang out with them.
Just playing the game.
What's that?
Mm-hmm. It's apparently what they did.
We'll put it on the Antelope Island.
Yeah.
Not the only city that did that either. There's a lot of cities that did it.
Yeah, I mean, this one doesn't have physical access anymore. And it is owned by the Nature Conservancy. So nice thing about the Nature Conservancy is that they put conservation easements on their properties, which means that it's never going to be anything but undeveloped land. So assuming, well, you know what, I'm not using the updated. Let's actually look at that while we're thinking about it. Oh, it's still owned by UDOT. Okay. Assuming that UDOT does follow what they've told us they're planning on doing and dedicating this stuff to the Nature Conservancy. I mean, this is all already owned by them. So that would follow.
Is the purple the city boundary then, or what's?
Yep. Yeah. So this is all county. You just have this little sliver.
Is that all Nature Conservancy even headed west too?
Yeah, I mean, the lion's share of this that's not federal land is Nature Conservancy.
At a certain point, the lake bed is sovereign land owned by the state,
Yeah.
and they have a management plan, but it closely aligns. It basically says like, this is for wetlands. See the Nature Conservancy.
Oh, okay. So there's nothing out there that would be annexed and that could potentially be annexed into the city. I guess is what I'm looking
They
for.
could annex in, they just can't really do anything with it.
Okay.
Yeah, the conservancy, because when we were working with them on I want to say it was the Fields project, we did a lot of work to get this outflow pipe here put in. And in talking to them, they're very explicitly aggressive about trying to make sure they get the conservation easements put in, and then they start working on their conservancy projects. So, which apparently down here is primarily mosquito mitigation. But yeah, I would anticipate eventually at some point we've got like the radio towers down there and stuff, but so there will be outliers, but I would imagine eventually this will pretty much all be owned by the Nature Conservancy. That is true. Yeah, you can't get sewer fall out there. And while we do technically allow for lift stations, it's not something that the city council has ever approved, at least since I've been here. But
That got put in. That used to be prohibited.
yep.
If you look out at the church farm, you can see that the residential master plan, to your west, the residential master plan is about as far away from the road as we think that you could build it up to make it gravity flow. Then the rest of that, see how it creates like a backwards upside down L. Yeah. So the yellow, we would think that would be residential, low density residential out there. And then at some point you just can't get sewer fall, so just remain in agriculture use or.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
because we did have a developer probably 5 years ago now. He wanted to put in some ski lake development down here. And as we were looking at trying to get the sewer to gravity feed back to 2700 South, once he got to about this point, wasn't it like 25 or 30 feet of fill or something ridiculous like that?
Yeah.
Build a mountain.
Yeah, fill it, raise it up, but then dig it so you have like a bathtub above ground. Now what could go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So that obviously didn't happen. But okay, so yeah, so these areas then, so the general plan shows those industrial spaces as open space now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess without having an actual rezone, that stuff's still going to be zoned that way. But
So the area in I guess that's the farmland we were looking at earlier. Then to the north of 193, or to the north of West Davis.
Yeah,
the green area there.
Well, yeah. So I was looking at these ones here, this yellow space.
Yeah, I was looking at the one just to the west of that, just right up against the freeway.
Right
That
here,
area there, yeah.
by the fire station.
Well, that's Fire Station, Jensen Park in that area then.
Yeah, so we've got boy. So fire stations, this Bluff Drive is going to come down, or it is coming down this way, and then it's going to go into the parking lot there.
There might be a few acres there where the city's buying it that could be developed.
Yeah, let me check on ownership currently. I think that's still UDOT down there. Yeah. So yeah, we own this. God owns that. I mean, this isn't huge. If I go and look at dimensions on that, I suppose you could get in. You got to get across the trail, which is a challenge. And then it's also squeezed between a very busy road, Bluff Road, and the highway, which I don't know, kind of is what it is. But it's currently zoned a mixture of R1 and A1. And the deepest point in here, like you could get something in there, but realistically 430 feet is not, I mean, if you're looking at single family like that, it's not a lot of homes at all. You'd have to look at some sort of higher density.
I was wondering if it was, you might use that as a more of a sports type. I mean, Jensen Park is more of a nature park, but like a sports park, like if you wanted to put a baseball field or soccer field or something there that could be used for that area.
Well, if you look at the scale on that, it's like our baseball fields up here. Let's see, that's roughly 500 by, oh, that goes down to the end. About, yeah, 500 by 500, maybe something like that. So that kind of thing wouldn't fit in here necessarily. You might get like a single soccer field this direction or something. But you still have to get parking and all that.
Yeah, the general plan kind of indicates that we would want to keep it as park space. Makes a lot of sense. But we'd have to buy it, and I guess that might need to be reflected in. I think they need to update the parks master plan too.
Well, that might be where UDOT owns it. We might be able to get it easier from UDOT than from a private.
Yeah, they've been trying to auction off all of their surplus properties, so probably will be auctioned off soon or buy it.
Might be something for the city to look at.
I know that the city ended up with a few more acres over by that detention basin south of the Jensen Pond in conjunction with the fire, so they can expand Jensen Park a little bit.
Okay. Well, at one point there was a master plan for Jensen Park to be about twice as what it is and have the sports component to it as well. But that might give it a little bit of that is all my thinking was.
Yeah, the freeway was supposed to go along Bluff Road.
Yep.
And then the city built the first phase of Jensen and blocked it. And then when UDOT came by, they're like, what did you do? Because they can't just plow through parks as easily as other things as far as their environmental impact statement goes. And so that's why you see the curve of the road the way it is.
There's a reason the trail was where it was.
Yeah, that was for that. But there's also the Bison Trail, right? It started that way.
Well, yeah, the reason our Syracuse Trail went along Bluff Road, and there was a reason it was there was to help preserve the corridor for West Davis. And then we built a park there, so that didn't help any. But that was the original, one of the original reasons the trail was where it was.
That's interesting. Yeah. Let's see. So what else do we have? I'm gonna head north.
Should we go on the north end of do you guys talk about that? Up by Schneider's?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of moving, I guess, counterclockwise. We've got, I think it's really, yeah, I guess that's it in that part of the city. So we have this stuff already planned. So really, we got these two. These are, I feel like, pretty significant wild cards. This one, not so much, but given the access and everything on this
the one around the temple there, I can guarantee you, at least for a while, it's not going to go on you. It's going to be farmed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But I guess in terms of long-term, planning,
yeah,
the plan that we have now is 2050, which I guess well, I don't know. I don't know what that family's.
Can you turn on the master plan?
Whatever happened to that hotel that was going over there?
Yeah, because we have low density residential, which would essentially be just more of the same of this type of thing. So I mean, yeah, makes sense. This area isn't exactly like a really easily accessible area.
No, I think that makes sense unless you want to put like something on the corner where they can put a future Far's ice cream or something like that. I don't know.
Sure.
For agritourism use or something?
Get our Ogden on.
Well, there's one right by the Ogden Temple, so you put one by the Syracuse Temple.
Isn't that what Thurgood Creamery is?
Yeah, Thurgood's the other side of it. So yeah,
Thurgood and Zippy's.
Zippy's right there.
Whichever way you're going.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it's not as easy to get to, especially and if and until they get the connection to 193 is Like it just makes sense to leave that residential there.
Yeah, I agree. And this again, looking at the land uses available. So A1, R1, R2, R3, cluster, RPC. Cluster is basically R1, right? But just half the size of the lots, but it's the same density. RPC, I don't know.
What is
There might be.
RPC?
You have to have 100 acres residential plan community.
Okay.
Yeah, they might have it. If they took all that down together, they might be able to do they would be able to do RPC if they took all of these at the same time.
How far, who owns, I know the Briggs owns most of that. Who owns the land to the west there?
Wilcox
Floyd.
Farms and Wilcox, Birch, and Perry Land Developments.
Okay.
I think that's Wilcox as well.
This is another area of the city where there's not a lot of parks. If you could rely on the little baseball fields next to the churches, that would help. I mean, in all reality, that
There,
open
yeah.
space is there. It's just not city open space,
Yeah.
but yeah, as far as city owned park space, that area is lacking.
That might be an option if I know the Briggs family has no intention to sell for at least 2 generations. The other one there, the Floyd Wilcox passed away earlier this year. So I could see, and right now his family says that they're going to continue to farm it, but I could see them in the near future, couple of years probably getting tired of farming and selling it. And Roseanne Birch, the one just down from that, just passed away last month, I think. Yeah, I think it's in the last couple of months. She just passed away. So her family may do something with that land too. So
Yeah, I did get a phone call from a developer asking about one of those. I can't remember which one it was.
So do we feel like this dividing line is an important one in this area then? Because this is going to be all Briggs.
yeah, that's all Briggs. I don't see them. I know I live just to the south of that. I know the family there, and Neil intends to farm for as long as he can, and his son intends to take it over. So they're already farming together, and his son's actually an attorney. So he does his attorney stuff on the side and then farms with his dad. So
We actually have a land use application from Jacob that will be coming before you soon.
okay. For his property then, or for?
Yeah.
Okay.
So as far as this goes, I feel like this eastern side then that's kind of sounds like a given. Do we want to do anything with this western side or just leave it as the low density?
I think low density residential actually makes sense because that's what's all around it. Unless you want to put a park in there. That would be my recommendation. If it's going to be a park, there could be a park in there, but otherwise I think low density residential, it's surrounded by it. It doesn't make any sense to me to make it something else.
Maybe since the Briggs don't want to develop for a long time, maybe that's where the parkland designation master plan goes.
That would make sense.
Maybe when we update the plan, we could consult with the owners and see what they feel.
Yeah.
Just maybe no errant baseballs flying this direction. It'd be an expensive window break.
Well, I can tell you at one point, there was a plan to put a big regional park right next to the high school. Just to the west of the high school, but that didn't happen. So
there kind of is a big park there. It's just owned by the school district.
Yeah.
So that hotel, did that go away?
So that corner is still master planned or general planned and zoned for commercial. So if they wanted to come in tomorrow and build the hotel, there's nothing the city could do. They could go right to site plan.
But they're not. proceeding?
They haven't even started on the apartments that it's connected to. The Monterey West apartment project. It was transferred ownership stuff, and they built all the underground utilities in the parking lots, and then just haven't gone vertical on the buildings. My guess is that this next year you'll see those, but they can't finish their project, the last building, until they build the hotel. So maybe we'll end up with an apartment complex with one less building, or we'll end up with a hotel there. There's a development agreement that kind of dictates what the hotel's got to be.
Yeah, we we anticipate commercial in this corner. There's been a few houses that have come up for sale. This one on the corner in particular, they were looking at doing some commercial there, but and I think that makes sense. These internal properties are just we have a lot of this kind of stuff in the city where it's these long, deep pieces and they're owned by, 50 different people.
Those are all acre plus lots.
Yeah, I think most of them are there. You got like 2.6. I guess like the skinnier ones are probably closer to other two. Yeah. Really big pieces of property, but very much just green space, right? This tiny bit of development on these massive pieces of property. So these will definitely be something other than what they currently are.
Those are some of the old, back when Syracuse was mostly just people building along the main roads.
Mhm. These like remnants of the farm blocks that have been chopped down over time.
Yeah, I think from what I can gather, the overall sentiment is that we just want to maximize the commercial anywhere it's possible. So if there was a way to like couple all those properties together and do commercial, I think we would go for that. But
At one point, wasn't the developer coming in that was trying to buy up all of those?
there was a proposal for townhomes and the city turned it down. And then there's been some activity on the hard corner. They're trying to figure out what to do. And but we're hoping to, like I said, the overarching policy is like we want as the biggest, the baddest possible. And then maybe
I think that makes sense.
compromise.
You can have the hospital across the street. You've got the high school there. I think that makes sense to make it commercial, all that whole block between 700 and 193. Personal opinion.
Yeah, it used to be that way. And then they just changed it to be on the corners.
You can look at the general area here. Let's see. I'm going to take in all these residential spaces. Well, maybe let's go straight down.
Just go straight there. I think that's
Because this is a huge amount of acreage. This is on par with that northern part of the Cook property. So yeah, 36. I mean, that's a ton of. So if I can zoom out and kind of give you like a visual idea, that's bigger than our town center.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
I think that makes, you've got 193 there. You've got a light. You have a hospital going in.
Bunch of medical office or something.
Medical offices. You could have, you look around the areas around other hospitals, around Davis Hospital, around McKay, around the Layton one that's just been built. The stuff that's going around it's commercial and things, going around it. I think my mind, it makes sense to at least plan it that way. And then we can see what happens. But I think it makes sense to plan it as commercial.
Might be some push and pull between the commercial and the industrial too.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a note of that. Let's see.
But like the area where we've got the medium density residential, I think you could probably change that to commercial. Or if you're thinking commercial and industrial, push the industrial up more towards 193 and then the commercial back down towards the residential area.
Yeah, if anything, on the hard corner, I would try to model after like a big box store.
Yeah.
See how much acreage in depth would be needed for the hard corner and their associated out parcels and parking lot.
So
how big is the target development over in Layton?
Let's take a look.
Because I could envision something like that going there.
Yeah, not too far. There's Target. We got parking lot. Good grief.
Let's go with like a hardware store.
Do Lowe's then over there, right? The Lowe's area, or
See the box.
down
let's
about the
see what we
freeway
have
area.
here. I mean, this area is 15 acres. I guess if I think that's a hotel. So
That's the hotel there. There's the because that's just south of Lowe's is a hotel, and then it goes down into restaurant areas and things like that.
So that's 29 acres. So altogether, this right here is about the same acreage as those houses. But again, I mean, like 80% of this is parking lots. So I don't know if, I guess it is what it is, but
Yeah.
But that frontage is kind of long and skinny too, so you wouldn't be able to fit any of that stuff in there.
No, you would both fit the huge parking
Mhm.
lots, but you could fit.
What's the depth from Antelope to the back of Lowe's?
let's see. From the edge of the right of way, it's 680. So over where we were looking, the depth on these properties is 680.
That would fit.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, polygon.
Did I? Oh. Well, line 680. 700. Those are really deep parcels.
So
Doesn't seem right. Let's see, line. I've got feet. Yeah, that's a good point because eyeballing it, I agree. That seems like excessive. to
700
me.
feet.
Huh. I guess another thing too in this area is that we have oh, one sec. So 450 is going to come through and it's going to come across, at least the plan is come across and intersect with 2500 here. So we're going to have another hard corner. So you're going to have double
I
points
think
there.
to me that still makes sense for commercial.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that probably increases the commercial viability for sure.
I think we were just looking to see if we were to expand that commercial further west on up by the corner.
I'm going to draw, let's see here. Go to my temporary places. I'm going to draw 2 boxes. And we'll see what that looks like. And then I'm going to zoom out and we'll take a look at both of them. Save. And then we'll go over here. Where am I? There we go. So let's say maybe heading to the north, take it about halfway down to the street. Do a box like that. So comparing just eyeballing, you can kind of see those are
They
about
look
the
pretty
same
close.
size. Granted, like
I can't see that very good.
Oh.
Am I getting old?
sorry. So you've got the red box down here, and then you've got
They
this
look
yellow
awfully
box.
close.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, that's extremely scientific. This is my school. I'm just kidding. This is not. Yeah. So yeah, I think that makes sense. So I've got a note here, change all of essentially these lots to commercial.
Yeah, that would create 2 of those
Yeah.
potential, and at least down to the one that goes,
450.
yeah, 450. But I would agree.
You could get 2 good sized commercial lots there with 450 in between them.
All right.
The PRD development discussion, there were property owners here saying, I'm never gonna sell. Saying that.
Yeah. I don't, one of them was, Lurland Knight didn't want to sell for what they were wanting to put there. He didn't want to sell for apartments or PRDs. He'd be willing to sell for other things, but that wasn't. Well, a lot of them had already, I remember seeing the signs up there that like a lot of them may have already sold because there was for sale signs or maybe they backed out. I don't know, but
Yeah, that is true. I think that we've also seen them go up and down a little bit, especially in this area.
Yeah.
Because it's owned by the same folks and they keep trying to sell it and no one buys it. But CW Land owns, or maybe it's Right Development.
yeah, Right Development. So I'm thinking of, they came through and bought quite a few of those and bought down to about where Lurland lives. And then he told him no, because he didn't want to sell what they were asking for.
Yeah, which I guess
He didn't want he didn't want the townhomes and stuff like that. Like that's what they were trying to propose to put in there. And he didn't want to sell his
Mhm.
land for that.
Yeah, and that's always the wild card. I mean, I guess I think again, like 2050, that's not that far away now, 25 years away, but that's still a ways out. So
I personally, like we talked about, I agree with Scott. I think it makes sense to have that be commercial.
yeah. Well, with that in mind, So this area up here, so we have this business park, and so we don't deal with this one very often. So well, it's industrial, I guess. So that supports business park, industrial research park, mixed use, general commercial, professional office, and the climate controlled storage.
That's what the Cook family asked for, wasn't it, when they came in?
On that property, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember because we were talking about some sort of industrial something, but I wasn't part of the discussion.
Yeah, they changed the zoning to industrial. That's if you turn on the zoning map. That gray. They had the property under contract and things were looking good, but then things fell apart.
Yeah, so that, I mean, this is a little further south than the. Oh, come on now.
Not really. It's
Yeah. Oh, I guess it's about on par. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if we're thinking up against Highway 193, one of the things, and this is really large scale, is that the West Davis corridor is a huge part of the state's inland port project. If those of you are familiar with that.
so the goal is to help with, is that an inland port area that we're talking about?
Yeah. So essentially we have a created a connection, a direct connection here via highways, which is one of the reasons that they removed the restriction on semi trucks on Legacy, is so that they get shipments coming in here. And now you have a direct access to the Freeport Center. So trucks coming up the West Davis corridor 193 over to the Freeport, that was like a significant economic development goal. So this is on the way. Not this is going to be another Freeport Center by any means, but in terms of industrial type development, with that in mind, that was kind of part of the rationale behind this.
Okay.
But we'd anticipate, some sort of industrial forward development up here, especially considering that UDOT is not going to allow any direct access onto 193, and you have to go through the 2500 connection. So they have this half mile, and just like they have over here, they allowed this, where'd it go? This right in, right out thing. That was really hard fought to get that access. They've said over here that, I mean, it would be really unlikely to get anything else but this 2500 access.
Well, that
So-
probably makes sense to have it right along 193, especially since you just go in and out onto 193 and not really impact the residents, hopefully, to the south.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, given the types of uses, we haven't had sort of heavy duty manufacturing use outside of Pacific Steel. And I mean, I've been here since 2016. I've never heard a single noise complaint or anything from anyone who lives in this area. That's not to say that that wouldn't happen here, but things to take into consideration, right? Like if this ends up going commercial, we don't have to worry necessarily about the impacts as much. But we do have existing residential here, and I would anticipate this southern half would probably be residential as well, given the access. But the overall, I guess another challenge is this is somewhat isolated. There is a canal and a break here, and so there's not really, I guess there is a way to get access across to the north, but it is a challenge. We've got our trail and everything, and West Point, as far as I understand, doesn't have any sort of significant plans for access outside of possibly one that goes across. So this area needs to be developed in some way eventually, I would imagine. But it's not like there's a lot of integration between these two per se. It's not like on Antelope, where you got all these directly across the street. There's a business. I want to drive over there. I'll just drive across the street, right? So, any thoughts on this area though?
That's an awfully big area.
I would like to see more commercial plus industrial.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we did a CRA project area recently. And the thing about this area that makes it special is the contiguous parcels by one owner. As far as economic development, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, relying on retail too heavily, especially as in the complex retail landscape that we have right now. competition from online shopping. A lot of retailers are going out of business. The thing about industrial is that they provide jobs, and they also provide a ton of property tax. A lot of times, if they have complex machinery and shelving and stuff, so there's the PP&E tax, personal property, that or sometimes the buildings are kind of plain, but they assess pretty good too. But it's the personal property inside. And so there's, if you look at the Wasatch Front in proximity to the Salt Lake Airport and the freeway, there are very few parcels that are 30 acres flat, one owner on a highway. So this is like, we're thinking this is like world headquarter territory for some good business. And so, and 193 extends right into the Freeport Center and the south gate of Hill Air Force Base. And so we created this project area to hopefully attract big business like this. And there's really nowhere else in the city that you can attract this big kind of thing. So I would not recommend eating into the square footage of the industrial too much, because that's pretty rare to actually find a piece of property like this.
And if we look at it, I think we can still put general commercial inside industrial, correct?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because that supports, let me pull it back up
Still
again.
have that.
Supports any of these. So I mean, in terms of the actual zoning, and this could also be a decision-making thing on the part of the city council, deciding what makes sense where, but also looking at what's functional within a certain code. Like we could say, for example, in the industrial zone that we want certain types of uses that we don't currently have, and we can expand that, adjust things, right? The sky's the limit, really. But
If we're really, well, shoot, if we're really trying to push for that, and that's what we really want, I would suggest that we strike the mixed use as an ability to be used in an industrial zone, because otherwise, I think when people see that, you're going to get a lot of requests. It is now along a UDOT road. So
They would need UDOT access.
yeah, and that's one of the,
I mean, I agree, but I don't want that to go mixed use, but
so yeah, the mixed use zone has that standard. There it is. It's got to have access and frontage.
well,
So in this case, they
it would
wouldn't
have
have
both.
access.
well, if they have the access on 25, if they build the 2500,
Yeah, there's
I don't-
no,
2,500 wouldn't be an access for them because that's not onto a.
yeah, they don't have access onto
Okay.
193. This is like backing up to the freeway essentially.
okay.
But I mean, that is something to take into consideration, right? Like if we want to make sure that we're focusing our efforts that direction so that we don't end up with, say, residential up here. Again, city council has to approve a rezone, right? So it's not a given.
Can we write, I mean, I don't think we have the general plan anymore. It used to have, there would be, we had to write we had the map. We also had to have a written area, a written section of each area of the city. And that kind of laid out the map said this is what it is. The written area was actually what,
We still kind of have that under the economic development section.
okay. Because we could, if we could write that into the economic development section then about what we want to have in that area.
Yeah, I think Royce, there is a paragraph. Yeah, there you go.
Between 1,000 and 3,000. So that's a big area, but that would include this. So they're saying we've got additional TIF areas, which I guess we've done.
Because I didn't see anything in there about, a potential headquarters of, or an inland port or anything like that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it talks about large contiguous tracts, close proximity to urban centers, be rare, should not allow single family development, plan for higher yielding land uses, like big scale industrial stuff, major employment centers, data centers, light industrial manufacturing, large office complexes, big box retail.
Well, there it says medium to high residential development should also be planned.
Medium to high density. Yeah, you could take out high density if you want. I don't care.
Well, I'm just saying we don't want to, if that's what we want that to be, we don't want to be eaten up by residential or mixed use or something like that in that area.
Sure.
Yeah, it looks like the intent was to provide a buffer to the existing single family, so we could use it. We could look at other like less intensive commercial uses instead than residential.
It's already master planned for medium density, so you could just
Yeah.
take off the high density.
And actually, this economic development section, we don't have the time tonight, but next time we have these kind of meetings, I think economic development section is one I'd like to try and go through with the commission to, discuss through that section of the general plan as well.
And just as sort of a caveat, I guess, if we're talking about these different types of uses, it's like data centers, for example, you got large office complexes. Those things do tend to have some significant economic impacts outside of just the sales tax base and property tax base. One of the significant impacts that a lot of communities, and this is more of like a Silicon Slopes type thing, but in talking to planners in Lehigh and Draper in particular, they've noticed some significant gentrification in the area. For those of you that are familiar with what that is, like just increasing basically the income in the area, which is fine, right? But it also increases buying power, which increases property taxes, increases the cost of living in general overall. And so when we're thinking about our existing residents, right, people on fixed incomes, older folks, that kind of thing, you got a range of people in the community who can be negatively impacted by gentrification as well. So
On the other hand, though, you have that buying power that comes in there, and then they go to lunch or they go to, that it helps to simulate your commercial area too, because then they'll go shop at your stores or they'll go buy lunch at your restaurants or.
Absolutely,
like
yeah. So there are definitely positives. There are definitely negatives. So it's just some things to be cognizant of. Any other thoughts on this area?
No, I think I said, I just think if we want that, we need to probably specify whether, in the economic section or something, that this is what the city intends for this area to be as much as we can.
There's pictures in that little section too, so we can make sure the pictures reflect what we're wanting.
It's like the pictures are most like a town center.
Yeah, it looks like it, huh? Is that because yeah, almost like a filler, huh? I guess it's because it's economic development, what we're
Yeah,
considering
well,
to be economic.
it is, all those things are not all those, well, a lot of those things are in that area because you've got the Rush there, you've got the theater, you've got the Walmart.
The bottom middle is industrial.
Bottom is industrial. That's Warren's on the bottom left. So if we want something that's more of a world headquarters type thing, maybe we need to go up to Freeport Center or Salt Lake or something to get a picture of something like that. That this is what we want in this area.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
that makes sense.
Talking like those buildings in Lehigh and Thanksgiving Point.
Go take a picture of Silicon Slopes.
Get some like larger office and stuff like that too. Yeah. And we can dig into this more as we go through the text section. Just really quickly, I don't know. I guess maybe that's a question. How late do we want to go tonight? Maybe do we want to put a cutoff?
Well, we've already gone past what my intention was, so I'll leave it for the commission.
I don't want to burn you guys out. I'm good going.
Well, we can
As long as
finish
you
the
want.
map in one night. We just got one last second.
Let's finish the map up.
Yes, perfect. So
That's the last section, right?
yeah, that's the last major point. I guess unless we want to talk about out by the guard shack, but that's kind of a wild card.
Do we have
both?
by the guard shack at Syracuse? Are we talking the Antelope Island guard shack? Are we talking?
The Antelope Island, yeah.
Okay.
But first of all, I guess we have this area. So undeveloped wise, it is pretty much all of this space. And then we've got a little bit on the 193 side, with the exception of this, like the last hole of Schneider's Bluffs in the city for some reason.
Yeah, if you ever want to stump somebody, ask them how many golf courses does Syracuse have?
One in a hole, is that
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird for some reason. You just crossing city boundaries out there, but
And they never share their sales tax from their golf course revenues.
Better take that up with the county.
You know, this is an area that I think will need to be amended because we've had significant development interest, met with a lot of people, and there was even some applications that kind of went away. There's a new signalized intersection that is on the books right there to be lined up with Thurgood Lane. I don't know how many of you guys were here when
Yeah.
that was
a fight.
that's a hot button topic. And the transportation master plan,
Where
whether or not that goes straight through or not.
where does the new West Davis or the extension of the West Davis corridor is going north
Gonna go
there?
west
around
of the
Schneider's
golf
Bluff.
course.
Hit the golf course. Okay.
Yeah, 193 is already extended to 4500 West. And West Point's planning on major commercial on the southwest corner of that. And then to the east of Schneider's, they're also planning some commercial, because if you look at that field and then you keep going up to there, that's where their city hall. If you go a little bit further north, yeah, I see those buildings. So it's their city hall. So I think they're thinking they can have some sort of main street, but that all depends on how our little corner develops. You know, they want us to provide some sort of stub road with development. And we've agreed, to do that, but we don't know how that's going to develop. So we'll have to.
What have we got that
Figure
planned
that
right
out.
now?
What was that?
What is that planned right now?
Medium
Residential.
density. So I mean, anytime you get frontage and access through a signalized intersection on a highway,
We ought
probably going to be commercial.
I think we ought to put more commercial in that area.
But where the commercial is now doesn't really make a lot of sense either.
No. I think we should, my recommendation, move it from the south there and move it up more towards along both sides of 193.
Where's the access going to be from the signal? Because you don't
it'd be
Right where, right there.
right here.
That's not going to be a signal. That's just going to be.
It'd be a signal, yeah. So it's weird because usually they only do the half mile, but this is kind of a strange exception. So I took kind of the midpoint between 3000 and where the
Okay.
interchange.
And at the time, I remember we didn't really know what kind of access would be at the intersection. So we just said, okay, the intersection of a highway and a freeway, that should be commercial, but there's no access. You have to go through a neighborhood to get there. Or maybe someday you'll be able to go on some sort of frontage road up by the signal and then go southwest along there and get there.
Yeah, if that's going to be a signal right there, then I think that should be commercial. Definitely on the north side.
Yeah.
Just make this section commercial and leave this because this one, I mean, so it's strange because a lot of these parcels are split too. Like I mean, they're different parcels, I guess, but it looks like it used to be one contiguous. And we tried to work with West Point to do some horse trading and that didn't work out. So they're going to hold on to all this stuff, even this little section here. So it's kind of hobbles what you can do in this area.
I think there's a high probability that the boundary can get adjusted, but neither city really has a lot to lose. So I think most likely it'll be led by an applicant that's trying to develop it, and we'll let them push it along because our relationship with West Point's important and we have a good working relationship. We don't, if there's any contention around it, like we would just back away. It's not like that area is that important for economic development.
Yeah. I would almost say make the area that's kind of south, right by the triangle, make that residential and then move the commercial up closer to where the intersection is going to be.
Yeah, I thought those two lots on the bottom right were going to be a couple of houses.
Yeah, that guy subdivided and tore that house down.
I don't think they've ever built anything there yet.
There's nothing there now.
Yeah, did he change? I think he changed the zoning, didn't he? If you turn the zoning on.
I can't remember if he changed the zone.
It's just R2 still.
Yeah, I think the subdivision just meets the requirements of R2.
I think he just subdivided. I don't think it was zoning.
I wonder now. You got my curiosity up. Oh yeah, it's like 80, probably 85. I don't know. Either way, yeah. So this area, Okay, so commercial up here where this intersection is going to be
Yeah, and then make that
residential down there. Do we feel like anything else needs to change in this area? We got low density over here. And then medium, I guess
Well,
up
some of that
here.
medium will need to change to commercial.
Just all the medium change to commercial.
I would say all commercial,
Yeah,
Hmm.
even the golf course part.
yeah.
Do we want to change this part to residential?
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise you're getting a little further away from the road. You may be able to get down there, but
I mean, yeah, if you see that on the highway, like there's a, I don't know, McDonald's, like, okay.
yeah, wander all the way
Like, you
through
know,
the subdivision to get there. Yeah.
Is that where the medium density is? Like we just kind of swap it?
just switch them.
Yeah, we just swap the medium densities when the commercial.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. Maybe kind of line it up here.
And you've also got commercial up to the east. It'll just meet up with other commercial.
Yeah, whether or not that neighborhood connects into the signalized intersection, I guess is still transportation master plan shows it, but it shows it in a later phase. And so we certainly want to work with that neighborhood to make sure that their needs are met.
I remember they're very close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's using this as RV parking, so whoever that is going to be upset. All right, let's see. So moving along, unless I guess before I move, any other thoughts on this area?
Any thoughts? I'm good with what we talked about.
Okay. The last spot, and this is, I don't know, maybe we want to talk about it, maybe we don't. It's the only other area we've had any sort of development potential, but this property here goes all the way up to there, and then it's on the edge of sovereign lands and stuff. So and there's like a city detention pond here. So it's not in the city currently, so they would need to annex in, and we have it as open space, but we've had requests for everything from RV park to camping to single family residential to a hunting lodge. It's been all over the place. So do we have any thoughts about out here? And we don't have to have thoughts about it either. I just wanted to bring it up.
I think any of those things sound interesting. Would we have the sewer fall to get down there to if they
That's-
were to put
yeah.
single family residential down there?
That is the challenge. Every sort of residential in particular has required some sort of sewer pump. So they're big enough to do it. They would have to set up their own special assessment district and everything. It's a whole process, but
I think a camping area would be intriguing because you're right there by the lake. That might be a
going to capture some of the RV traffic because this
Yeah.
is apparently people do the whole big five thing down south, and then they'll take their RV up, and then this is kind of a midway point between here and Yellowstone. So a lot of folks like to camp out at Antelope Island on their way between those.
Antelope Island
destinations.
has a few, but I mean they've got some campsites out there. But if we could capture some of that, I think that might be a good option. I'm not sure what we'd zone that as
Yeah, I mean we'd have to look at it and kind of see what the
or
different
plan
uses are, but
what the master
Probably be
plan
like,
would be for it.
I think in the A1 zone, we allow like private recreational kind of things, but maybe not. See, campground starts getting into more like hospitality. That's
Yeah.
more of a commercial use, but like open spaces kind of stuff, private open spaces that would still fit within the way it's general planned.
Okay. Because I think that would be a
Yeah, I think this would be an amazing regional park. You have
Yeah.
walking trails, but like not a sports park. I mean, this would be like trails and maybe mountain biking and horseback riding and fishing in the pond, and it'd be
when
really cool.
you could do all that, and maybe you could have a part of it set aside as that RV or some kind of a trailer park's not what I want to say, but some kind of a campground or camping type area
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, the thing about RV parks and trailer or yeah, like you said, you don't want to call it a trailer park.
Right.
Nobody
Not-
wants a trailer
That's not what I
park.
want.
But sometimes if those campgrounds aren't managed properly, you end up with a trailer park.
Yeah. Well, it would have to be, they'd have to, I would want the city to have some kind of ownership or some kind of a, maybe that's what we do is if it's a regional park, if it's a park and the city owns it, then the city maintains it and the city sets the rules for when they can, how they can park there, when they can park there. Options, I guess. If other people own the land, then we can't do that, but that's an option for the city, I guess.
Well, there is the unofficial gun range out here.
Yeah.
If anybody enthusiasts, I guess, but um yeah, so it sounds like what we're talking about though does fit within generally with what it's currently general planned as this open space that's going to cover sort of recreation and agriculture and stuff like that. Do we see any need to change anything out here?
Probably not right now. I mean, if it ever gets annexed into the city, we can probably have a more discussion on it, but that's for right now, I think it probably makes sense to leave it at that.
Sounds good. All right, well, those are the major open spaces in the city. So I think if it sounds like we want to talk about the text a little bit next time.
Yeah, next time I think we have one of these kind of meetings where we have nothing on our agenda, approval wise or nothing on the regular meeting agenda. Something like this where we could talk about some of the language or review some economic development, or if there's other pieces that you think we need to review. I think we've had the 2 times we've done this, I think we've had a lot of good discussion and a lot of good things I think have come out of it. And
Yeah, thanks for putting it on. I think it's been really positive for us to, if anything, be familiar with what's in the actual general plan.
Yeah.
And the part that we haven't discussed, as far as if city council wanted to implement some of these things, is the public engagement piece. It's important with all general plan updates and what
Right.
that process and timing would look like. And, because we want to get lots of input.
yeah, I think it's been really beneficial, and I think we should, we'll take advantage of these opportunities we've got because we don't always have meetings or we don't have a lot of stuff that we can just have a work meeting and a discussion on these things. I think this is really beneficial. I hope the rest of the commission feels the same way because I think they've been beneficial meetings.
Yeah, and I mean, at least as far as I go, day-to-day work, I mean, I reference this every day, multiple times a day. So it's definitely has a lot of functional application. I guess before moving on, then, are there any general thoughts, anything else that anyone wanted to add in terms of what we discussed? Anything that we missed?
Any thoughts from anybody?
I have one on really.
Let's hear it.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Barrett, a long time ago, we lived in Hiram, which is up in Cache Valley. And the fire department every 4th of July had a fireman against the kids' water fight.
They got a what, bar fight?
Water fight. So it's kind of the fire department kind of did some testing and they put on a water fight with the kids of the town. So kids would show up with like garbage can lids and stuff. And then the fire department guys would just blast them with the hoses. It was the funnest activity ever. I'm wondering, we could do that here. It'd be fun.
Do it part of Heritage Days.
Yeah.
Love nothing more than to spray a fire hose into the crowd.
Oh yeah, everyone. Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean,
yeah, I don't think we're on Zoom, are we? At least I tried.
How many
Being
people are
recorded.
following?
It's public.
We're also streaming to YouTube, so somebody might watch this later.
so yeah, I mean, it was just fun. I mean, people and the kids would get really creative on how they would
Shield.
someone got those plastic 55-gallon barrel water things. They cut it in half. They had a big shield,
Yeah, when I was a kid, we had something similar. Neighboring fire department, Riverton and Draper, where I grew up, they'd have a big water fight, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we can discuss. It was definitely a small town feel. It was a lot of fun. So we had a lot more firefighter games back then. So, but I think the Colin might have an
Fewer
opinion
lawsuits.
on that.
Do we have any legal issues with that one?
Yeah. I don't know. It was just, I just remember that being a really, it was like the highlight event of the 4th of July celebration there. So,
I'll bring it up on our next meeting.
all right.
Do you
Sorry for
have-
that, Tim. No, that's good. But thanks again. I think we'll move on from anything commissioner reports. We'll count that as commissioner reports.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anybody else have anything we need to bring up tonight?
Mr. Chair, move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time tonight. It did go longer than I anticipated, but I think we had some good discussion. So thank you.
It's okay, the elections aren't posted anyway yet, so.